At 2:15 on the 4th of June, 1945, Commander Earl Hydeman stood in the forward observation dome of the USS Sea Dog, his gaze fixed on the sonar operator's screens as they navigated towards the Tsushima Strait. They were meticulously tracking 4 distinct lines of submerged mines, a formidable barrier protecting the Sea of Japan. At 34 years of age, with 3 completed war patrols to his name, Hydeman was acutely aware that not a single submarine had ever successfully penetrated Japan's most heavily fortified waters and emerged intact. The Japanese defense comprised 400 mines, meticulously strung across a 40-mile expanse, with each explosive device positioned 50 yards apart. Consequently, American submarines had consistently maintained a safe distance. For 2 full years, no vessel had dared to breach this formidable cordon, not since the 11th of October, 1943. That was the grim anniversary of Vice Admiral Charles Lockwood losing his closest confidant, Lieutenant Commander Dudley Morton, the legendary Mush Morton, commander of the USS Wahoo. Morton was widely regarded as the most audacious submarine skipper in the Pacific Theater, credited with sinking 19 enemy vessels across 5 patrols. He had previously entered the Sea of Japan through these very straits in August of 1943, wreaking havoc on Japanese maritime traffic for a fortnight. However, when the Wahoo attempted to egress via La Parau Strait on the 11th of October, Japanese aircraft located her on the surface. 40 bombs and 69 depth charges rained down, resulting in the loss of 79 men, with no survivors. Lockwood's diary entry that somber evening read, "This is the most devastating blow we have sustained. My heart is shattered. May God deliver retribution upon the Japanese." For a protracted period of 20 months, the Sea of Japan remained an inviolable sanctuary, Japan's final secure shipping artery, their private aquatic preserve, metaphorically referred to as Emperor Hirohito's personal bath. Merchant vessels traversed freely between Korea and Japan, their running lights ablaze, maintaining steady courses, entirely unescorted, under the unwavering conviction that American submarines were incapable of navigating the treacherous minefields. Yet, Lockwood never forgot Morton's sacrifice. He relentlessly pursued the idea of exacting vengeance. By the spring of 1945, scientists at the University of California's Division of War Research had achieved a significant breakthrough: frequency-modulated sonar. This innovative mine detection system, dubbed FM sonar, displayed submerged obstacles on a green monitor and emitted an audible alert when its beam intersected a mine. The distinctive, clear ringing tone was affectionately, albeit grimly, referred to by the crews as Hell's Bells. However, the technology was still in its nascent stages and deemed unreliable. A February 1945 evaluation report concluded, "It is not felt that in its present state of development, FM sonar is operationally reliable." Lockwood, undeterred, disregarded these reservations. He personally selected 9 submarines, retrofitted them with FM sonar, and subjected them to 3 months of intensive training. Subsequently, on the 27th of May, he convened them at Guam, outlining the critical mission: to breach the Tsushima Strait, penetrate the Sea of Japan, and engage every vessel in sight, thereby forcing the Japanese to acknowledge their forfeiture of control over their last protected waters. He christened this audacious undertaking Operation Barney. The 9 submarines were organized into 3 distinct wolf packs. Hydeman's unit was designated Hellcats, with Hydeman himself commanding the lead wolf pack from the Sea Dog. The Hellcats comprised the Sea Dog, the Creel, and the Spadefish. Following them were Pierce's Polecats, the Tunny, the Skate, and the Bonefish. Bringing up the rear were Risser's Bobcats, the Flying Fish, the Bowfin, and the Tenosa. The operational plan was deceptively straightforward: submerge to 150 feet, cautiously navigate through 4 lines of mines, remain submerged for 20 hours, and place their complete trust in the FM sonar for their survival. To witness the outcome of Hydeman's experimental sonar deployment within the perilous minefields, please engage the like button. Your support is instrumental in enabling us to share more of these forgotten narratives. Ensure you subscribe if you haven't already. Now, returning to Hydeman's crucial endeavor. At 2:30 on the 4th of June, the Sea Dog descended to 150 feet and leveled off. Hydeman issued the command to activate the FM sonar. The sonar operator amplified the volume, ensuring the entire crew could apprehend the system's performance. For 5 agonizing seconds, a profound silence pervaded, broken only by the faint hum of the electric motors. Then, the sonar beam swept across a metallic object situated 600 feet ahead. A sharp, distinct tone reverberated through the submarine, Hell's Bells, the harbinger of the first mine. Hydeman consulted his charts, knowing that 3 more mine lines lay in their path. 400 deadly spheres, suspended by cables, stood between them and the Sea of Japan. And the Sea Dog's FM sonar had just begun to emit a discordant sound, an anomaly. The tone was irregular, producing indistinct, nebulous shapes on the screen instead of the expected clear, paired returns. The experimental technology was faltering at the most critical juncture. Hydeman intently studied the sonar display. The FM equipment was designed to render distinct green pairs, signifying clear targets. Instead, he perceived only fuzzy, amorphous blobs. The Hell's Bells tone, which should have been a sharp, true ring, sounded muffled and distorted. His executive officer, Lieutenant Commander James Lynch, moved closer. "Sir," he stated, "the sonar is not providing accurate readings." "I am aware," Hydeman responded. "We could surface and transmit a message back." "Abort the mission." Hydeman's gaze fell upon the date displayed on his chart, June 4. Exactly 20 months had elapsed since the Wahoo's tragic demise. He contemplated Morton, Lockwood's poignant diary entry, and the 79 men who never returned home. "No," Hydeman declared resolutely. "We proceed." He ordered the Sea Dog to advance at a crawl of 2 knots. The indistinct shape on the screen progressively enlarged, 600 feet, 500, 400. The muffled tone intensified but failed to resolve into a clear image. 300 feet. The mine was positioned directly ahead. Hydeman, unable to ascertain its precise location, issued the command for a hard right rudder. The Sea Dog executed a sharp turn. The amorphous blob on the screen drifted left. By some miraculous intervention, they had narrowly avoided it. The KAL and the Spadefish successfully navigated the first mine line in the wake of the Sea Dog. All 3 Hellcats had made it through. At 400 hours, Hydeman briefly surfaced his periscope for 30 seconds to ascertain their position, then submerged once more to 150 feet. 3 additional mine lines remained ahead. 24 hours later, on June 5, Pierce's polecats approached the strait. Commander Richard Lynch stood in the conning tower of the Skate, listening intently as his sonar operator called out ranges. In contrast to the Sea Dog's experience, the Skate's FM sonar performed flawlessly. Clear tones and bright green pairs emanated from the system. Hell's Bells resonated through the vessel each time they passed within the detection range of a mine. At 3:20, the Skate submerged to 150 feet and entered the initial minefield. Within an hour, they reached the second line. Lynch reviewed his charts. The mines in this section were spaced with unsettling proximity, only 50 yards apart. The Skate, measuring 100 yards in length, was being inexorably pushed sideways by the eastward current towards a cluster of 3 mines. Lynch ordered the engines stopped, allowing the vessel to drift. The sonar clearly delineated the mines, 40 yards, 30, 20. Collision seemed imminent. Then, the crew was assailed by a sound that seized every heart aboard with dread, the grating of metal against metal outside the hull, commencing at the bow and extending aft, a mine cable. If the cable snagged on the Skate's bow planes or superstructure, the mine would slide down the cable directly towards the pressure hull. The ensuing explosion would obliterate everyone instantly. Lynch remained utterly motionless. The scraping sound continued past the conning tower, the engine room, moving ominously toward the stern. One of the sailors whispered, "This is it." The hydrophone operator amplified the volume, ensuring the sound was audible to all. The grating grew louder, reached the stern planes, brushed against the propellers, and then abruptly ceased. The cable had slipped free. The skate drifted clear. Lynch remained silent for a full 30 seconds. When he finally gave the order to proceed, his voice was steady, though his hands trembled uncontrollably. 6 hours later, on June 6, Risser's Bobcats entered the strait. Commander Alexander Thierry commanded the bowfin. His FM sonar functioned adequately, but the Hell's Bells tone became almost incessant as they navigated the second minefield, encountering one mine every 300 feet. The clear ringing permeated the submarine for 17 consecutive hours. Some crew members resorted to stuffing cotton in their ears, while others simply ceased to register the sound, which had become mere background noise, akin to tinnitus, a constant reminder of the unseen peril lurking in the water. At one point, Thierry's crew heard the same unsettling scraping sound that the skate had reported, a cable dragging along the hull, from bow to stern, encompassing the entire length of the submarine. Then, an unnerving silence descended. By midnight on June 6, all 9 Hellcats had successfully traversed the minefields. They rendezvoused on the surface in the Sea of Japan at 200 hours on June 7. Hydeman raised his periscope and scanned the horizon. No Japanese patrol boats, no aircraft, no destroyers were visible. The enemy remained blissfully unaware that 9 American submarines were operating within their supposedly secure waters. Lockwood's audacious plan had materialized. They were inside. However, the more formidable challenge lay ahead, a 15-day offensive, sinking every vessel encountered, followed by an escape through La Perouse Strait, the very passage where the Wahoo had met its tragic end. Should the Japanese ascertain the presence of submarines in the Sea of Japan before June 24, every boat in the Hellcats formation would be irretrievably trapped. At sunset on June 9, 1945, Lockwood's directives were enacted: commence firing. Hydeman positioned the Sea Dog off the northwestern coast of Honshu, near the port of Niigata. Japanese merchant ships moved in predictable streams between Korea and Japan. They sailed unescorted, without employing evasive zigzag patterns, their running lights illuminated, navigation aids shining brightly, precisely as intelligence had predicted. The Japanese were convinced their Sea of Japan was impenetrable. At 2015 hours, the Sea Dog's radar acquired a medium freighter, weighing 2,500 tons, bearing 205 degrees, traveling at a speed of 8 knots, en route to Kyoto. Utterly oblivious to the submarine tracking its every move, Hydeman launched a single torpedo from a range of 200 yards. The Mark 18 electric torpedo left no wake, no exhaust trail. The Japanese crew never perceived its approach. At 2015 hours and 45 seconds, the torpedo struck the forward section of the vessel. The ship sank within 60 seconds. By midnight, the Sea Dog had dispatched 2 more freighters to the depths, the Sagawa Maru, 1,186 tons, and the Shoyo Maru, 2,211 tons. Both vessels were hit and submerged within minutes. The other Hellcats dispersed across the Sea of Japan, commencing their own predatory hunts. The Spadefish patrolled the northeastern coast near Sado Island. The Creel operated within the shipping lanes connecting Vladivostok and Suruga. The Tunny and the Skate navigated southward towards Toyama Bay. The Flying Fish, Bowfin, and Tenosa covered the Korean coastline. Between June 9 and June 20, the Hellcat sank enemy vessels at a rate that outpaced the Japanese Naval Command's ability to comprehend the unfolding events. Reports flooded in from multiple locations concurrently, ships vanishing without a trace, no distress signals, no survivors to recount their harrowing experiences, only vast expanses of empty ocean where convoys had once plied their trade. On June 11, the Sea Dog tracked down another freighter, the Kafuku Maru, 753 tons. Hydeman fired from a range of 800 yards. A direct hit sent the vessel down within 3 minutes. The following day, June 12, the Sea Dog encountered 2 cargo ships proceeding in tandem at dawn, the Shinsen Maru, 887 tons, and the Kaiwa Maru, 1,045 tons. Both vessels were laden with vital supplies destined for garrisons in northern Honshu. Hydeman launched 4 torpedoes, 2 aimed at each target. All 4 found their mark. Both ships succumbed to the depths before 700 hours. Japanese command finally grasped the gravity of the situation. American submarines had successfully penetrated the minefields. The Sea of Japan was no longer a sanctuary. All merchant shipping was ordered to cease operations, every convoy instructed to return to port immediately, and all cargo ships commanded to remain anchored indefinitely. However, the damage had already been inflicted. By June 15, when the Sea Dogs sank the Kwan Maru off Akita, the psychological impact had permeated Japan's entire merchant fleet. Sailors outright refused assignments, captains tendered their resignations, and port workers initiated strikes. The Japanese had irrevocably lost confidence in their last bastion of secure maritime transport. On June 19, the Sea Dog conducted operations near the northwestern coast of Hokkaido, locating 2 additional targets, an Army cargo ship, the Kokai Maru, 1,272 tons, and a merchant vessel, the Shinhi Maru No. 3, 958 tons. Both were attempting to reach Otaru under the cover of fog. Hydeman tracked them using radar, firing from 300 yards. Both ships sank by noon. This brought Sea Dog's tally to 6 vessels, the highest individual score among the Hellcats. Hydeman had personally accounted for more tonnage sunk within 11 days inside the Sea of Japan than most submarines managed in their entire wartime patrols. However, on June 19, a grave incident occurred. Commander Lawrence Edge commanded the Bonefish, one of Pierce's polecats. His final radio transmission was received at 1400 hours from Toyama Bay on the north coast of Honshu. He reported engaging a small convoy, after which all communication ceased. The Bonefish never transmitted again, failed to reach the rendezvous point, and simply vanished. On June 23, the 8 surviving Hellcats convened at the predetermined coordinates in the northern Sea of Japan to prepare for their egress. Hydeman waited until midnight. The Bonefish never appeared. The Japanese had finally claimed one of their submarines. Now, the remaining 8 submarines faced the daunting task of transiting La Perouse Strait, the same narrow passage where the Wahoo had met its demise, where Morton and 79 men had perished under a relentless barrage of bombs and depth charges. This time, however, the Japanese were fully aware of approaching submarines. Hydeman made a decision that would either preserve his vessels or doom them all. Instead of submerging through La Perouse Strait, as standard doctrine dictated, he ordered a high-speed surface run at 21 knots, directly through Japanese patrol waters under the cloak of darkness. It was an act of extreme audacity. Surface vessels were inherently vulnerable, susceptible to radar detection, aircraft surveillance, and interception by patrol boats. But Hydeman understood his crews were utterly exhausted. 20 days of unrelenting tension, living with the constant presence of Hell's Bells, engaging in combat within enemy territory, and now the loss of the Bonefish. The men could not endure another 20-hour submerged transit through minefields. Therefore, they would race across the surface under the shroud of night. At 2100 hours on June 24, the Sea Dog assumed the lead position. Following her were the Creel, then the Tunny, and subsequently the Skate. These 4 submarines formed a tight column, heading northeast at maximum speed. The Flying Fish, Bowfin, Tenosa, and Spadefish comprised a second group, maintaining formation behind. Hydeman stood on the Sea Dog's bridge, binoculars scanning the horizon. The night was intensely dark, devoid of moonlight, ideal conditions for their high-speed transit. However, as they approached La Perouse Strait, the Sea Dog's radar inexplicably failed. The SJ surface search radar went dead without warning. Lynch ascended from below. "Radar is out, sir." "I am aware. We are blind." "Signal Creel. Instruct them to assume the lead." The Creel moved forward, guiding the column utilizing its radar. The Sea Dog's technicians worked with frantic urgency to repair the SJ system. At 0000 on June 25, they succeeded in restoring its functionality. The Sea Dog reassumed its leading position. The strait narrowed to 17 miles across, characterized by shallow waters and strong currents. This was the very location where Morton had met his end, where the Wahoo's crew had spent their final moments under a sustained and brutal assault. Hydeman possessed an intimate knowledge of the Japanese patrol patterns, having meticulously studied every report, every intelligence briefing, and every survivor account from vessels that had ventured close to La Perouse and subsequently retreated. The Japanese maintained patrol boats stationed at both extremities of the strait, deployed aircraft on rotating schedules, and operated listening posts on Sakhalin Island. They were fully cognizant of submarines operating within the Sea of Japan and understood that La Perouse Strait represented the sole northern egress route. They were waiting. At 2:35, the Sea Dog traversed the narrowest point of the strait at a speed of 21 knots. No patrol boats materialized, no searchlights pierced the darkness, and no depth charges were deployed. The column maintained its relentless advance. The creel followed at a distance of 200 yards, then the tunny, and subsequently the skate. By 500 hours, all 8 submarines had successfully cleared La Perouse Strait. They were through, safe in the open Pacific waters. Hydeman ordered the column to reduce speed to 10 knots and spread out. They had maintained maximum speed for 8 consecutive hours. The engineers required time to inspect the engines, and the crews desperately needed rest. But first, Hydeman needed to confirm a crucial detail. He steered the Sea Dog northeast for an additional 3 hours, then ordered a dive to assess for any potential damage. As the vessel submerged, Hydeman mentally tallied the submarines. 9 submarines had entered Tsushima Strait on June 4. 8 emerged through La Perouse on June 25. 1 vessel was lost, the Bonefish and her crew of 85 men. Nevertheless, the mission had been accomplished. 28 Japanese ships had been sunk, 1 American submarine lost, and 54,786 tons of shipping consigned to the ocean floor. Additionally, a Soviet freighter was inadvertently torpedoed by the Spadefish, adding another 11,000 tons to the tally. The Japanese had irrevocably lost control of the Sea of Japan. Their final secure shipping route was gone. Merchant captains refused to sail, port workers declined to load cargo, and the psychological impact was complete. On July 4, 1945, the Sea Dog sailed into Pearl Harbor. Lockwood stood on the dock, awaiting their arrival. As Hydeman disembarked, Lockwood grasped his hand, remaining silent for 10 seconds. Then, he spoke. "Mush would be proud." Hydeman nodded in agreement. "We finished what he started, sir." Lockwood surveyed the 8 submarines moored at the dock. 8 boats, not 9. Yet, they had succeeded. They had breached Japan's forbidden waters, avenged the Wahoo, and demonstrated that submarines could navigate minefields using FM sonar. They had unequivocally shown the Japanese that no place was safe any longer. Every surviving crewman received a certificate from Lockwood, inducting them into the Distinguished Order of Mighty Mine Dodgers for their unparalleled courage in traversing the most perilous wartime waters. However, the cost was undeniably high. The Bonefish never returned home. 85 men remained forever in the Sea of Japan. The narrative of Operation Barney originated 2 years earlier, within a laboratory situated in San Diego. October 11, 1943, the very day the Wahoo went down. Lockwood sat in his office at the Pearl Harbor submarine base, perusing damage reports, when the urgent message arrived: Wahoo overdue. Presumed lost. All hands. Lockwood locked his office door and remained secluded for 4 hours. Upon his eventual emergence, his staff observed that he appeared to have aged a decade in a single afternoon. He convened an immediate meeting with his intelligence officers and uttered 6 pivotal words: "Find me a way into Japan." The challenge of the Sea of Japan was starkly defined: 400 miles of heavily protected water, with 3 entry points, all heavily mined. Tsushima Strait to the south featured 4 lines of contact mines suspended by cables. La Perouse Strait to the north presented random minefields scattered across 17 miles. Tsugaru Strait, situated between Honshu and Hokkaido, was excessively shallow and patrolled with overwhelming intensity. American submarines lacked the capability to detect submerged mines. The sonar technology of 1943 was designed for detecting ships, not stationary objects. A mine situated 300 feet away was effectively invisible. By the time a periscope could discern a mine cable, it was invariably too late to execute any evasive maneuvers. Consequently, the Sea of Japan remained strictly off-limits. Japanese merchant shipping operated with impunity, their unescorted convoys traversing freely between Korea and Japan, transporting vital resources such as iron ore, coal, food, and ammunition, everything necessary to sustain the Japanese war machine. American submarines were powerless to interdict this flow. Lockwood steadfastly refused to accept this predicament. In April of 1944, he visited the University of California Division of War Research in San Diego and met with the scientists engaged in developing advanced sonar systems. He posed a single, critical question: can you engineer a device capable of detecting mines? The lead scientist was a man named Dr. William Tukey. He explained their ongoing work on a novel sonar system intended for mine sweepers, known as frequency-modulated sonar, or FM sonar. This system swept through various frequencies while scanning, enabling a non-directional hydrophone to determine the bearing of a returning signal based solely on its frequency. Its maximum effective range, under ideal conditions, extended to 800 yards. The technology was not without its inherent problems. It struggled to differentiate between mines and schools of fish. Initially, fish provided a muddy, indistinct return signal, whereas mines generated a clear, resonant tone. Training operators to discern this crucial difference required weeks of intensive practice. The equipment was inherently unreliable, plagued by wiring failures, power surges, and spurious readings. The minesweeper force had tested it and ultimately rejected it, deeming it too complex, too unreliable, and not worth the significant effort involved. However, Lockwood perceived a latent potential within the technology. He inquired of Tukey, "Can you adapt it for submarine deployment?" Tukey responded, "Perhaps, if we can surmount the reliability issues." "How long might that take?" 6 months. Perhaps 8. Lockwood immediately authorized the project, allocating substantial funding, assigning dedicated engineers, and ordering 5 submarines to be modified for testing the experimental equipment. These vessels were the Flying Fish, Skate, Bonefish, Creel, and Sea Dog. All 5 were temporarily withdrawn from active patrols in late 1944 and dispatched to San Diego for the installation of the FM sonar systems. The initial testing phases proved to be catastrophic failures. The wiring was incorrectly installed, and the sonar produced a cacophony of horrifying sounds. One operator described the experience as akin to being trapped in a chamber of horrors, filled with howling, screeching noises that threatened to drive the crews to the brink of madness. Engineers were compelled to dismantle the entire system and commence anew. By January of 1945, they had successfully rectified the wiring issues. The FM sonar began to function as intended, displaying mines as distinct, bright green pairs on a planned position indicator screen. When the sonar beam swept across a mine, it emitted a clear, ringing tone, "Hell's bells." Operators could now reliably distinguish between a mine and a school of fish. The operational range proved consistent, reaching 800 yards, or approximately 1/3 of a mile, providing sufficient warning to execute evasive maneuvers. However, the system remained prone to unreliability, with random glitches causing screens to go blank and tones to become distorted. Operators could not always place unwavering trust in the displayed information. A February 1945 evaluation report concluded, "It is not felt that in its present state of development, FM sonar is operationally reliable." Lockwood, having read the report, chose to disregard its conclusions. 16 months had passed since the Wahoo's tragic loss. Japanese shipping in the Sea of Japan continued to move an estimated 6 million tons annually, completely untouched and secure, directly supporting Japan's war effort. He was no longer willing to wait. In January of 1945, Admiral Lockwood directed his officers to commence preparations for a large-scale incursion into the Sea of Japan. He designated Commander William Seaglaff to spearhead this planning. Seaglaff, a decorated veteran of 7 wartime patrols with a record of sinking 15 enemy vessels, possessed a profound understanding of submarines, their tactics, and the inherent risks involved. Seaglaff's proposed strategy was audacious. 9 submarines, each equipped with cutting-edge FM sonar, were to be organized into 3 wolf packs. Their objective was to enter the Sea of Japan via the Tsushima Strait over 3 consecutive nights, conduct operations for 15 days, and then egress at high speed through the La Perouse Strait. This operation was conceived to demonstrate the capability of submarines to navigate minefields, to avenge the loss of the USS Wahoo, and to shatter the Japanese sense of security in their final protected waters. Lockwood christened it Operation Barney, in honor of Seaglaff's personal moniker. However, a significant unresolved challenge loomed. The precise locations of the enemy mines remained unknown. Intelligence reports indicated the presence of 4 mine lines within the Tsushima Strait, but their exact positions, the spacing between individual mines, and the depth of their anchoring cables were all uncertainties. These minefields had been deployed by Japanese mine sweepers in 1942 and 1943, and no American submarine had previously ventured close enough to accurately map them. Seaglaff recognized the critical need for reconnaissance. Consequently, in March of 1945, he dispatched the USS Tenosa on a specialized mission. Commander Richard Lahm was placed in command of the Tenosa. His directives were straightforward: approach the Tsushima Strait, utilize the FM sonar to pinpoint the minefields, meticulously record their positions, and depart safely without engaging any targets. This was a purely intelligence-gathering endeavor. The Tenosa spent 11 days meticulously navigating the approaches to the Tsushima Strait. The FM sonar performed flawlessly, with Lahm's sonar operators successfully detecting mines at distances of up to 700 yards. They diligently plotted their locations, sketched maps, and catalogued the cable depths. By the time the Tenosa returned to Pearl Harbor in early April, Seaglaff had acquired the essential intelligence he required. The minefield consisted of 4 distinct lines, extending from the northwest to the southeast across the strait. The spacing between mines varied, ranging from 50 to 150 yards, and their depths beneath the surface spanned from 20 to 80 feet. While the minefield presented a deadly obstacle, it was deemed navigable under specific conditions. The FM sonar had to function perfectly, the sonar operator needed to maintain unwavering vigilance, the submarines had to execute precise navigation, and no unforeseen complications could arise. Seaglaff carefully selected the 9 submarines for this perilous mission, prioritizing those with experienced crews and commanders who could remain composed under extreme pressure, men capable of enduring 20 hours submerged within minefields, listening intently to the disquieting echoes of the sonar. Commander Earl Hydeman was assigned overall command due to his steady, methodical, and unflinchingly resolute demeanor. He had commanded the USS Sea Dog since March of 1945 and had already achieved a ship sinking on his 3rd patrol. Commander Pierce, known for his aggressive yet intelligent approach and his avoidance of unnecessary risks, commanded the USS Polecats. Commander Risser led the USS Bobcats, his crew placing absolute trust in his leadership. These 3 Wolfpack commanders oversaw a total of 9 submarines and 270 men. Throughout April and May, all 9 submarines underwent intensive joint training exercises at Pearl Harbor. They practiced FM sonar operations, conducted simulated minefield transits, and thoroughly studied the charts provided by the Tenosa. Admiral Lockwood personally participated in some of these training runs, even operating the FM sonar himself, experiencing firsthand the chilling Hell's Bell sound and observing the emerald pings appearing on the screen. He was determined to fully comprehend the operational challenges his crews would face. During one such training exercise, the Sea Dog's FM sonar experienced a malfunction while traversing a simulated minefield. The display showed indistinct smudges rather than the expected clear pairings, and the Hell's Bells tone became distorted. Lockwood immediately halted the exercise and ordered a thorough inspection of the equipment. Technicians discovered a loose electrical connection, which they repaired within 30 minutes. Nevertheless, the incident underscored the inherent risks. The equipment could fail at any unpredictable moment, and such a failure within an actual minefield would inevitably lead to the loss of the submarine. On May 20, Lockwood convened all 9 commanding officers in his office to present the final operational plan. He recounted the tragic fate of the USS Wahoo and its 79 lost crewmen, emphasizing the grave dangers involved. He then offered them a choice. "This mission is voluntary," Lockwood stated. "Any commander who wishes to withdraw may do so now, without question or any negative impact on their service record. This represents the most perilous undertaking we have ever considered." Not a single officer opted out. All 9 commanders and their 9 boats committed to the mission. On May 27, the USS Hellcats, as the 9 submarines were collectively known, departed Pearl Harbor for Guam. They arrived on May 29 and spent 3 days completing final preparations, including equipment checks, torpedo loading, and last-minute briefings. On June 2, Lockwood personally flew to Guam to bid them farewell. He met with each commander individually, offering firm handshakes and final instructions. Upon meeting with Commander Earl Hydeman, Lockwood imparted a directive he had never before issued to a submarine commander: if the FM sonar fails within the minefields, surface immediately. Radio for assistance. Abort the mission. I will not lose another vessel in a misguided attempt at heroism. Hydeman acknowledged, "Understood, sir." Lockwood reiterated his seriousness, "I mean it, Earl. Morton did not abort when he should have. Do not make the same error." Hydeman affirmed, "Yes, sir." Both men understood the grim reality: once ensconced within a minefield, surrounded by potentially 400 contact mines, and with a malfunctioning FM sonar, surfacing and signaling for help would offer no salvation. They would already be considered lost. The only conceivable recourse would be to press onward, relying on their equipment, their crews, and a measure of luck. On June 4, at 0215 hours, Hydeman's resolve and faith would be put to the ultimate test. The repercussions of Operation Barney impacted Japan within 48 hours of the initial incursions. By June 10, the Japanese Naval Command issued emergency directives mandating the immediate cessation of all merchant shipping operations within the Sea of Japan. All convoys were ordered to return to the nearest port, and all cargo vessels were to remain anchored indefinitely. This order affected 643 vessels, effectively freezing over 3 million tons of shipping capacity. Japan's wartime economy was heavily reliant on the Sea of Japan for the transportation of vital resources, including iron ore from Korea, coal from Manchuria, and foodstuffs from occupied territories. 70% of Japan's raw materials traversed these waters. Now, American submarines held them under their control. Within a single week, Japanese steel production plummeted by 18%, ammunition factories reduced their output by 22%, and food distribution to major cities slowed to 40% of normal levels. This crippling effect was not the result of aerial bombardment or a naval blockade, but rather the paralysis induced in the Japanese merchant fleet by the operations of 9 submarines. The psychological impact spread more rapidly than the actual sinkings. Merchant sailors began refusing assignments, captains resigned rather than risk sailing into peril, and port workers initiated strikes demanding combat pay for loading ships bound for the Sea of Japan. Insurance companies ceased providing coverage for cargo destined for Korean ports, leading to a complete systemic breakdown of maritime operations. The Japanese command attempted to resume shipping on June 22 with heavily escorted convoys. A convoy comprising 3 destroyers, 2 patrol boats, and 6 merchant ships departed Busan on the morning of June 22, bound for Tsuruga. By noon on June 23, two of the merchant vessels had been torpedoed, causing the convoy to scatter. The remaining ships limped back to Busan. Japan subsequently abandoned any further attempts to navigate these waters. On August 6, 1945, the United States detonated an atomic bomb over Hiroshima. A second atomic bomb was dropped on Nagasaki on August 9. On August 15, Japan surrendered. However, subsequent historical analyses have indicated that Operation Barney significantly hastened the war's end by severing Japan's supply lines approximately 2 months prior to the atomic bombings. The submarines did more than simply sink vessels, they eroded Japan's morale. Admiral Lockwood fully grasped the magnitude of his Hellcats' accomplishment. At the ceremony welcoming them back to Pearl Harbor on July 4, he presented each crewman with a certificate of commendation, the Mighty Mine Dodgers. Privately, however, he convened the 9 commanding officers and shared a sentiment he never officially documented: Morton would have survived if he had possessed FM sonar, Lockwood declared. The USS Wahoo met its fate due to our lack of this technology. You have now proven that we have it. The Sea of Japan is no longer Japan's, it now belongs to us. Yet, the cost of this victory remained a profound burden for Lockwood. The USS Bonefish never returned. Commander Lawrence Edge and his 84 crewmen perished in Toyama Bay, their submarine sunk by depth charges on June 19 while Edge was engaging a small convoy. There were no survivors, mirroring the tragedy of the Wahoo. Lockwood personally visited the families of the lost, engaging in 85 conversations where he explained that their sons, husbands, and fathers had died within Japan's supposedly secure waters, thus proving the pervasive reach of submarines. Most families posed the same poignant question: did he achieve anything? Lockwood responded with unwavering honesty: your son played a crucial role in ending the war. Japan lost control of the Sea of Japan because of his actions. Thousands of American lives were saved because Japan could no longer transport its supplies. While some families found solace in this answer, others did not. However, Lockwood never wavered in his conviction regarding Operation Barney's success. He maintained it was a worthwhile endeavor. The mission was accomplished, the technology proved effective, and it established a precedent for future submarines to navigate any minefield equipped with FM sonar. By September of 1945, the Navy had retrofitted 20 additional submarines with FM sonar. A second large-scale penetration of the Sea of Japan was planned for October, but Japan's surrender obviated the need for this operation. The atomic bombs ultimately brought the war to a close. Operation Barney, though often relegated to a footnote in historical accounts, held immense significance for submariners. For them, it was definitive proof that technological advancement could overcome geographical limitations and that innovation could conquer seemingly insurmountable obstacles. 9 submarines, equipped with experimental technology, achieved what entire fleets had failed to accomplish. Today, descendants of FM sonar technology are standard equipment on every submarine globally. Modern mine detection systems trace their lineage directly back to the distinctive Hell's bells that echoed through the USS Sea Dog in June of 1945. The submarines themselves have largely faded into history. The Sea Dog was decommissioned in 1948 and subsequently scrapped. The USS Skate, after surviving Operation Barney, met its end as a target vessel during the atomic bomb tests at Bikini Atoll in July of 1946. The USS Bowfin currently serves as a museum ship at Pearl Harbor. The remaining vessels were either scrapped or utilized as targets. However, the lessons learned from Operation Barney endure. Commander Earl Hydeman retired from the Navy in 1957 with the rank of Rear Admiral. He received the Navy Cross for his role in Operation Barney, with a citation praising his great daring and heroic actions. Fully aware of the perils involved in completing this unprecedented undertaking, he penetrated strong anti-submarine barriers and entered supposedly inviolable enemy waters. Richard Lynch, the executive officer of the USS Skate, who vividly recalled hearing a mine cable scrape along the hull, also retired as a Rear Admiral. 50 years later, in interviews, he described the sound, which lasted perhaps 10 seconds but felt like 10 minutes, stating that every man aboard the skate believed they were doomed. Vice Admiral Lockwood retired in 1947. He authored 3 books chronicling submarine warfare in the Pacific, dedicating substantial portions of each to Operation Barney and Commander Mush Morton. He consistently linked the successful mission with the man who inspired it. Lockwood passed away in 1967. Several survivors of Operation Barney attended his funeral, including Hydeman and Lynch. They informed reporters that Lockwood had conceived Operation Barney as retribution for Morton's loss, but it evolved into something far grander, a testament to the resilience of American submariners in overcoming any challenge. FM sonar technology advanced rapidly in the post-war era, becoming standard equipment by 1950. By 1960, mine detection systems were sufficiently sophisticated to map entire minefields from a distance of 5 meters. Modern submarines possess the capability to navigate underwater obstacles that would have proven fatal to every vessel during World War II. Nevertheless, Operation Barney remains the foundational proof of concept. 9 submarines, employing experimental technology, spent 20 hours submerged within minefields, sinking 28 enemy ships while losing one of their own. The mission's success was attributable to crews who placed their trust in unreliable equipment and commanders who made decisions that defied established doctrine. Currently, the USS Bowfin rests as a museum ship at Pearl Harbor, meticulously preserved in its 1945 configuration. Visitors can tour the submarine, observing the station of the FM sonar operator, where the Hell's Bells tone resonated throughout the vessel, and where Commander Alexander Thierry guided his crew through 17 hours of relentless mine detection pings. A memorial plaque at the Submarine Museum lists all 9 Hellcats, Sea Dog, Crevalle, Spadefish, Tunny, Skate, Bonefish, Flying Fish, Bowfin, and Tenosa. 8 returned home, 1 did not. 85 men remain forever in the Sea of Japan. Another memorial at Pearl Harbor commemorates the USS Wahoo and Commander Morton, bearing 79 names. The date October 11, 1943, marks the loss of the boat that initiated this entire saga. Admiral Lockwood never forgot. If this narrative has resonated with you as it has with us, please do us a favor, click the like button. Each like signals to YouTube to share this story with a broader audience. Subscribe and enable notifications, as we diligently unearth forgotten stories from dusty archives every single day, tales of submariners who saved lives through experimental sonar and sheer courage. These are real people and real acts of heroism. Please leave a comment and tell us where you are viewing from. Are you watching from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, or Australia? Our community spans the globe. You are not merely a viewer, you are an integral part of keeping these memories alive. Share your location. Inform us if any family members served in the military. Simply let us know you are here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for ensuring that Commander Hydeman, the Hellcats, and the men of Bonefish do not fade into silence. These individuals deserve to be remembered, and you are instrumental in making that happen. The Japanese could not fathom that American submarines had infiltrated their sea until 28 ships vanished within 15 days, and 9 submarines definitively proved that nowhere remained safe. Operation Barney, conducted from June 4 to June 24, 1945, was the mission that avenged the Wahoo, the technological breakthrough that forever altered submarine warfare, and the haunting sound of Hell's Bells echoing through minefields in the Sea of Japan.